I too have been getting emails from users of medical marijuana who are greatly concerned that they're going to be caught by this five or more who are growing their own marijuana. And they're greatly concerned about being caught with this 5 or more or less than 201. Is there some way that the government can set their mind at ease? Because I don't think what you have said in this room is going to get out there to these people very quickly.
Well, I think, though, it's important to make a distinction between those who use marijuana for medical purposes through the regulatory process and those who self-medicate. Those who self-medicate without accessing the permit,
going to be caught by this.
They will be caught. They are contravening the provisions of the CDSA and would be caught by this. So those individuals we can't help. As for the individuals
other than advising them to go to their doctor.
Yes. And those who go through the regulatory process, if this bill comes into force, when this bill comes, your choice, it's in your hands, not mine. Then I have to believe that the media will report this, and that more accurate information will be put out there. Plus, there will the new legislation will be put on the Justice website and so on and so forth.
Well, one of the great concerns that I have is the accessibility of drug courts, and we don't have them in Quebec or the Atlantic provinces, the territories. Does the federal government are they planning on setting up opening drug courts in any of these areas?
I understand that there is some interest in some of those areas for drug courts. The drug court program, if you look at it historically, it was an evolutionary thing. And we didn't start off by saying we are going to have a drug court program and put out 6 drug courts. It started with one in Toronto. We went then to a second one in Vancouver. Both those courts were really pilot projects. And in fact, the 4 drug courts that have come into operation since then, while not full pilot projects, are closer to pilot projects than established programs. The reason for that is that we have not done a full evaluation of the benefits of drug courts. In the states where they've had drug courts for quite a number of years now, there is still some controversy as to the cost-benefit of drug court. The process is fairly cumbersome. It's fairly expensive, and there are therapeutic practitioners, medical practitioners, who believe that you get more bang for your dollar by not putting all of these monies into this structure, but by opening up more treatment centers. So we want to find out for ourselves just how these things work and how beneficial they are. So we're not proposing to expand these courts for the moment, to my knowledge. And certainly we won't be doing anything until we have a better sense of their merit. Now, having said that, it's true that the existing 6 courts are only found in certain parts of the country, but the provision that deals with the drug court here, or that refers to the drug court, also refers to treatment programs, and those are much more available throughout. So an individual who is given an opportunity to go to a treatment program and who successfully completes that treatment program, as set out under Section 720 of the Code here, would also have the possibility of not having the minimum penalty imposed on them. So you have essentially a parallel track. You've got treatment programs, and then they're much more available and much more dispersed throughout the country, and you have the 6 drug courts. So an individual where there's a drug court might go to the drug court, or he may end up going through a treatment program, or where there are no drug courts, there are treatment programs. Individuals might be referred to those, and if they successfully complete their programs, then the court has the option of not imposing a minimum penalty.
Well, that leads right into my next question, because how many people are admitted to go through the drug court process each year? Have you gathered any data whatsoever, and how many people actually sort of graduate from it?
There is some information. It's actually a fairly small number per court. I understand that there's roughly about, taking average, about 100 persons go through a drug court per year. When you look at...
That's the total of the 6?
No, per court. Per court. So roughly about 600 people per court. The courts are not, I'm given to understand that the courts are not being used to full capacity on the one hand, and on the other hand is that the 600 or so people who go through these annually represents really a very small portion of drug offenders. Mm-hmm. In the end, I can understand why there's a lot of interest in the drug courts, but really, it represents a small portion of the entire phenomenon. It's a small percentage of offenders, drug offenders, that get dealt with.
Well, in that case, how many people do you think are going to be charged? Additional people will be charged per year under these new provisions. How many of them do you think will it be the same proportion then that seek access to these drug courts?
We're now wandering into the speculative.
Yes.
But I do not believe that these provisions would result in additional charges. There's nothing here that broadens or adds new offenses. There are no new offenses being created here. What we're doing is that we're taking essentially aggravating factors that courts often take into account, and now we're saying, okay, well, when those aggravating factors are present, now the courts will have to impose a minimum penalty, and they range from 6 months up to 3 years, depending on the circumstances. So we're not broadening. We're not actually attacking the level of activities in a broader way. So I don't believe that there will be.
The bill then is merely looking at minimum sentences. Period.
That's correct. No new offenses.
Nothing new, just minimum sentences. So
That's
it comes
correct.
down to whether or not we think there's any value in minimum sentences if they work. Have you any statistics that show that?
I have no statistics that prove they don't or they do work. We have statistics. We've had minimum penalties in the drug area, particularly, are non-existent at the moment. We did have a minimum penalty up until, I guess, the mid-'80s, late '80s, for importation, and that was struck down. It was a 7-year minimum. And so we have virtually no information in terms of the Canadian experience. We've looked in the U.S., and the experience in the U.S., well, first, it's not definitive. It does tend to show some things. But the thing is that the U.S. situation is not the Canadian situation. The U.S. situation, they have a horrendous drug problem. They have a totally different demographic makeup. They simply have a different drug problem. So I don't think that it's really reasonable and logical to take the situation in the U.S. and say, well, this is what's going to happen in Canada. We don't know. So do I have statistics or do I have information that will show that this is going to work or will not work? I do not. I am not doing it.